All it takes is one. If you find just one breakout wide receiver in the middle round, your chances of winning skyrocket. So here are 7 wide receivers taken after round 4 with top 10 upside. Lions wide receiver Amon-Ra St. last year, the final 6 weeks of the season, as he was getting into the stretch of things as a rookie, was the 2nd wide receiver in points. And as you can see here, only Cooper Kupp, the guy who put up that historic season last year, was the only guy who scored more than him. And St. Brown, the highlighted number here of 16.8 points, is the points per game Jamar Chase scored during this time. St. Brown's almost 21 points was 30% more than the standout rookie Jamar Chase. But hold on one second, because there's more. 47% of St. Brown's total yardage last year, 435 yards, was after the catch. And this is impressive because it shows that Brown can create production on his own. Yet he's been dropping in drafts since the Lions took Jameson Williams in the NFL draft. But here's why that's a mistake. Jameson tore his ACL on January 10th, so he didn't have surgery until mid-January. He's expected to miss at least 6 to 8 weeks. An October deadline around Halloween is when they expect him back. And this makes it difficult for Williams to see 50-plus targets this year if he's going to miss half the season. So the takeaway there is that Brown has dropped 19% in drafts. He now goes as the wide receiver 29 overall, and this is clearly a mistake, creating some value. Now this next wide receiver goes 7 picks after St. Brown. Now Russell Gage was the number 2 option on the Atlanta Falcons last year. And in 10 games without Calvin Ridley last year, Gage averaged 14.7 points. That 14.7 points was top 20 amongst wide receivers at that time. But fellas, check this out. Gage put up those numbers while playing for a bottom 5, the 4th worst scoring offense in the NFL. And now he finds himself on the number 1 passing offense after getting recruited by Tom Brady himself this offseason. So I think it's safe to say we can expect Gage to actually top his career high of 4 receiving touchdowns. Now it gets even better because during that time when Gage ended up being the 2nd receiving option behind Kyle Pitts, there was no Ridley, he was a top 10 PFF graded receiver, meaning that every single route he was playing well. And now it gets even better because during those weeks where he was the number 2 option for Atlanta in targets per game, Kyle Pitts was number 1, no Calvin Ridley, he was a top 10 graded wide receiver according to Pro Football Focus, which means that on average he was playing as a top 10 receiver per route. And this was higher than a lot of standout players last year. You could see Stephon Diggs on this list, Jamar Chase, if I keep scrolling, CeeDee Lamb, DK Metcalf. And what really sums this up is that on the entire season, not just that time that Ridley was out, he was the 13th most efficient wide receiver in the league. And beautiful people, let's not forget about Chris Godwin's injury, because he didn't just tear his ACL, no, he also damaged his MCL, which is important because it's going to take longer to come back from. And if we look at the initial tweet that Ian Hartitz put out, we zoom in here on January 3rd of 2022, stating that Chris Godwin had successful surgery, it's going to take 10 to 12 months from that date of the surgery to return on average, meaning that Godwin is likely to miss anywhere from 6 to 8 plus weeks. So now here's your takeaway. While Godwin is out for that time, Russell Gage is going to be Tom Brady's number 2 passing option. But listen closely, because this next wide receiver might be his offense's number 1 option. And that's because Christian Kirk has the 2nd highest salary cap hit, the dead salary cap, on the Jaguars now. And that's because they made him a top 15 paid wide receiver this offseason, $18 million Rooskies per year. So they're heavily incentivized to use him, and here's what you need to know. Kirk currently goes as the wide receiver 43 off the board, but he goes as the 43rd wide receiver, only 32 NFL teams, but he might be and likely has the best shot to be Trevor Lawrence's number 1 option. And this number right here, 65%, is the amount of times that Trevor Lawrence was targeting wide receivers compared to other positions, the 3rd highest rate in the NFL. And Kirk's competition isn't all that impressive. Here's his top competition this season. You have veteran Marvin Jones, who's 32 years old and has had 3 straight seasons of decreasing efficiency. He was 80th in the NFL last year. You have Zay Jones, a free agent ad, who I actually think is a great pick in like the 18th rounds of drafts, because why not at that point? But he was 69th in efficiency last year, and Laviska Shenault, his first 2 years in the league, has not been that great. 74th in efficiency last season. Now, one more thing. Christian Kirk averaged over 7 targets per game when DeAndre Hopkins was out last year, and Kirk had to be the wide receiver 1. And he actually averaged 13 fantasy points per game, so a rise of about a point to 2 points. Now, here's the interesting thing. Over those 7 games, he only scored 1 touchdown. But based off the NFL averages for the volume that he saw, he was expected to score 3 touchdowns, meaning that he was unlucky. So if he just saw the NFL averages, he would actually put up 14.7 points, not 13 points per game with Hopkins out, which would have been top 20 wide receiver numbers. And now this next wide receiver, the rookie Chris Olave, actually goes later in drafts than Kirk. And this is important for you to know. The Saints, just to move up 6 spots in the first round to draft Olave, they swapped their first round pick and they gave up a 3rd and 4th round pick. Now this type of investment ensures strong opportunity in year 1 for Olave. And Michael Thomas has yet to practice this offseason in minicamp because of his lingering ankle issue, and here's your takeaway for that. If Thomas misses time, Olave is going to start the season as the wide receiver 1 for Jameis Winston. And And what also helps him is that Alvin Kamara and the Saints, they're bracing for him to be suspended 6 games, also going to help the opportunity for Olave. And speaking of opportunity, this next wide receiver as a rookie took full advantage of his opportunity. Mr. Kadarius Toney, when Sterling Shepard, the leading receiver at that point in the season for the Giants, when he missed time, Kadarius Toney stepped in and was a top 5 wide receiver over that 5-game stretch. Toney was earning nearly 9 targets per game, and he had 14 points per game, and then he did this. He had 189 yards on 10 catches against the all-pro cornerback Trayvon Diggs. But that's not even the most impressive part. Because as a rookie, Kadarius Toney saw a 29% target rate, the 7th highest in the NFL. For reference, it was more than Justin Jefferson and DK Metcalf last year. And earning targets for wide receivers is the #1 predictor for future success. Now, this next stat is going to speak volumes about his talent. Toney ranked 5th last year at beating man coverage, and the only 4 wide receivers ahead of him were Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, DK Metcalf, and AJ Brown. Some pretty dang good company. So draft Toney, and now let's talk about why this 5th-round wide receiver has major upside. And that man's name is Darnell Mooney, who as a rookie saw a 19% target rate. Not the greatest, 64th in the NFL, but he was a rookie. But this past year, that increased to top 20 in the league at 27%. Now, this is very interesting because this is similar to the trajectory that most top 10 wide receivers take. Let me explain. Mooney won versus man coverage 43% of the time last year. It was borderline top 10 in the NFL at 11th overall. And he was 7th in target separation. Now, here's what this means. It means that Mooney was getting open and separating often. But Justin Fields in his rookie season last year ranked 33rd amongst quarterbacks. Again, only 32 NFL teams. He ranked 33rd in accuracy. So if Fields' accuracy improves, Mooney is going to break out in a major way. And right now, my top 200, I have Mooney about 6 spots, so a half a round ahead of ADP. So I like him a good amount. He's a borderline top 50 player for me. And if you want to check out my top 200, my tiers, my wants and avoids list, and a whole lot more, just click the link in the description and follow these 2 steps. And I'll throw in a $20 Amazon gift card for a limited time, so be sure to scoop that bad boy up. If you don't like the guide, I'll refund your $10 minimum deposit, and you can keep the $20 gift card, a free gift card for you. So check it out and learn more with the link in the description. So Mooney will get there if his quarterback becomes more efficient, but this next guy might get there on volume alone. This offseason, Brandin Cooks signed a 2-year, $39.7 million contract, and 91% of this money is guaranteed. He's now a top 15 paid wide receiver. Props go out to Brandin Cooks. And that much guaranteed money ensures the Texans are going to continue to heavily lean on him. And here's what it's looked like his first 2 years in Houston. Since joining the Texans in 2020, Cooks is 12th in the NFL in targets overall with 253. Now, I found this to be insane. In 2020 with Deshaun Watson, he averaged 15.4 points. He averaged the exact same amount of points last year in 12 games with Davis Mills, 15.4. So it didn't matter if it was Deshaun Watson or Davis Mills, he was getting points. But it doesn't stop here, because in 2021, there was no Will Fuller like there was in 2020, and he ended up seeing 2 more targets, 9.3 versus 7.1, 2 more targets per game in 2021 without Fuller. And for what it's worth, he went from scoring 12.9 points to 16.1 points per game, at like a 25% increase in production. Now you might be saying, of course, Sally's going to score more points if Will Fuller's not there. You're right, but it's important to point out because there is no Will Fuller coming into town to take away touches this year in 2022 or targets from Brandin Cooks. And the wide receivers behind him, you have Nico Collins, who I like as like an 18th round pick, but he was 84th in wide receiver efficiency as a rookie last year. There's John Mechie, the rookie out of Alabama, 2nd round pick, but he's a rookie coming off of a torn ACL and might not even be ready week 1. And then there's Chris Moore, who as of right now is probably the 4th option on this depth chart, and this guy's got 24 receptions over the last 3 years. There is no threat here at all for Brandin Cooks. So the takeaway is draft Brandin Cooks in round 5. Now you know the wide receivers who have upside after round 4, but if you want to see the 5 running backs who fit this same exact mold, getting guys with top 10 upside late, then check out this lovely video right here. And 70% of you beautiful people aren't subscribed, so fix that as well and hit subscribe.